What is going on, y'all? Robert Sykes, KetoSavage.com, and welcome to week 2 of the reverse diet. So we are 2 weeks into the reverse diet, and I've done a few things that are a little bit counter to what I would recommend in a reverse diet, simply because I had some outside circumstances that most people aren't likely going to have. So let's dive into the spreadsheet. I'll explain that, and then we'll kind of flesh that out in further detail. So here we are in week 2 spreadsheet. I started the week at 154.1 pounds, so not that much above my last competition weight of 152.3 pounds. A general rule of thumb in the reverse diet is to gain, between a pound, pound and a half each week on average. 2 pounds gained a week would be a little bit more aggressive than I would likely want to push it. Depending on your goals, a pound, pound and a half is pretty reasonable. So here I am starting week 2 at 154.1 pounds, so feel pretty good about that. Now, if we look at the macros, you'll see that the end of week 1 saw me at 135 grams of fat, 150 grams of protein, because I mentioned earlier that I bumped up that protein back to be about a 1 gram per pound of lean mass, total mass, with me being as lean as I am at this point. So that's why that's a little bit higher, keeping the total carbs very low and about 1875 calories for week 1. This week, on week 2, you see that I've got quite a significant bump in fat and protein, 215 grams of fat, 175 grams of protein. I wouldn't normally recommend that big of a bump, and I'm going to drop that down. The reason I had that bump is because I was incorporating an extra pound of lamb and 30 grams of duck fat like you've seen me do previously, so that I could fill out my glycogen reserves for a DEXA scan that I did on Thursday. So when I did my my prior DEXA scan, I had done it during a depletion week, so my intake was very low, my muscle glycogen was down, and that kind of skewed my numbers a little bit, I think. So I wanted to ensure that was not the case with this go-around. So I had the DEXA scan on Thursday morning, and I had the extra pound of lamb Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday to ensure that I had full replenished muscle glycogen. So that's why you see the 215 grams of fat, 175 grams of protein, 15 grams of total carbs there, for a total of 2695 on the calories. Now, on Wednesday, the day before the DEXA, I had those same foods, those same macros, plus an additional Keto Brick to kind of mimic a refeed and treat the DEXA like I had done prior competition show day. So when I did the Boston, Massachusetts show, for instance, I had the extra pound of lamb and an additional Keto Brick the night before the show. So I kind of mirrored that same approach, which is why you see it at 306 grams of fat, 207 grams of protein, 25 grams of total carbs, for a total of 3682 on the calories. Now, on the day of the DEXA itself, I dropped that back down to what the normal refeed or normal reverse diet week 2 macros for me would be, which is 140 grams of fat, 150 grams of protein, 15 grams of total carbs. That's what the normal week 2 macros for the reverse diet would be, had it not been for the fact that I'm getting this DEXA scan. So did that, got the DEXA scan. Next week's video is going to be all about comparing the DEXA scans. So we'll go over those in great detail there, so just sit tight on that one. But that's what happened with the macros. Now on Friday, you'll see a pretty significant jump in calories here, and that is because I promised my crew that I would take them out to a Brazilian steakhouse after I got back from all the competition travel, and that is exactly what I did. So I'm giving myself 2 non-tracked days where I'm able to just eat until I'm satiated, eat intuitively, and not obsess over the macros preemptively before consuming the meals. Everything that I'm consuming, I've got the macros accounted for in advance so that I'm not retroactively going back and trying to compensate for things. That does wonders from a mental standpoint. But I did go into this knowing that I was going to have 2 untracked meals that I just allowed myself to enjoy and would get back on the plan. The Brazilian steakhouse immediately after the competition, where I took my family and crew that were with me in Washington, and then the Brazilian steakhouse when I got back with the crew. And that's exactly what this is. Now, on this one, I had only had 1 Keto Brick prior to going to the Brazilian steakhouse instead of the 2 that I had on show day, and I did not have the celebratory brownie that Crystal made after this one as well. So the actual intake is lower than what it was on the first Brazilian steakhouse immediately post-show. It wound up being about 385 grams of fat, 385 grams of protein, so pretty close to a 1-to-1, and 35 grams of total carbs. Now, that total is 5,145 calories. So I had about 7,500 calories on the day after the competition, or the day of the competition when I took that crew to the first Brazilian steakhouse. So I had less intake this week at the Brazilian steakhouse. But interestingly enough, more meat. After the competition, I had about 3 pounds of meat. At the Brazilian steakhouse this last time, I wound up having about 3.7 pounds of meat. So quite a bit more meat, but less Keto Brick that day, which is why the total calories are a little bit lower. Interestingly enough, I only went up a pound the next day as well. So I ate 3.7 pounds of meat and only went up a pound of weight the next day. This morning is Saturday morning, which is when I'm recording this, and I was 153.7 this morning after eating 3.7 pounds of meat. My blood sugar stayed stable. So everything I said in the prior video about if you're going to eat in a surplus, make sure it's coming from quality foods that you know your body responds well to, ideally fatty cuts of meat and fat and protein, then you shouldn't see a drastic increase in scale weight the next day, which is exactly what happened here. I went up a pound from the day prior, 152.7 to 153.7. I feel great, no GI distress, no issues whatsoever. Now I'm going right back to my actual reverse diet plan with stair-stepping increases. No more Brazilian steakhouses in the foreseeable future. So the next several weeks and months will be much more reflective of what I would recommend for a reverse diet. I just had these 2 Brazilian steakhouse days and the preparation for the DEXA, which is a little bit outside the norm. So that's what we have from a spreadsheet standpoint. The ratios wind up breaking down to about a 69% of my total calories coming from dietary fat. Again, my blood sugar stayed stable that whole time. I don't have any more ketone strips. I need to get those because I would have been curious to see what that would have done to my blood ketone readings. But from a blood sugar standpoint, everything is held stable. As far as cardio goes, I've trained every day this week except one in which I did cardio. I did 27 minutes at level 16. I'll probably keep doing 2 sessions a week for the next several weeks, but this week, due to traveling and whatnot, I'm only going to be able to do the 1 session at 27 minutes at level 16. So that's what we've got going on there. If we go to my meals, this was the... Let's just show you the day. So this reflects the Brazilian steakhouse meal. Again, I don't want to put all this meat up here to kind of show from a braggadocious standpoint of how much you can eat and not really experience much of a gain in body weight. But this also shows the brick that I had before that Brazilian steakhouse, which is our new white chocolate peppermint brick, and it is absolutely gloriously delicious. So this video is going live on Friday. We're announcing that this brick is going to be going live in 48 hours on Sunday. So definitely jump on ketobrick.com and get you a white chocolate peppermint brick if the season strikes you, because we're going into Christmas and this brick tastes just like Christmas. So you're going to love it. So that's what we got going on there. This is all the food that I had at Texas State Brazil. It wound up being about 4,000 calories, so that plus the 1,000 calorie brick, and you got about 5,000 calories for the day. So that's what we've got from that Brazilian steakhouse day. Now, the normal meals for this week are going to consist of 6 tablespoons of Nut Pods creamer and 1 brick, probably the Bell's Brownie brick, 10 eggs, and 8 ounces of elk. I've got some elk in the freezer I'm trying to use up. I want to have the volume from the eggs. So that's what that's looking like, and that's yielding the 140 grams of fat, 150 grams of protein, and 15 grams, 20 grams total carbohydrates. So that's what we're looking like from a meal standpoint for week 2 of the reverse diet, and apart from that Brazilian steakhouse day, kind of what the calories are going to be like. So not a massive increase, still under 2,000 calories, and I'm just going to keep stair-stepping that up week to week. We took pictures and video footage, but I don't have that on the computer here prior to us filming this video because we just took those. So Chip will throw in some images that we took this morning. Again, these images are the morning after having 3.7 pounds of meat at the Brazilian steakhouse. So I'm a little bit bloated, but you can see the conditioning is still there on point. I'm not holding any excessive fluid really, and I feel great. No GI distress, no issues there. And I'm just kind of maintaining that really crisp, lean composition as I go through these weeks with the reverse diet. I'm staying on top of my cardio, staying on top of my training. I feel great in the gym. I don't have the weight of the competitions on my shoulders, and I just have a little bit less stress with that. Got a lot of other stresses in other areas of my life, but we'll talk about that on another video. So main point being that in keeping those routines consistent and continuing to pose, continuing to do cardio, continuing to train, not deviating too much from the foods that have led to my success in the first place with this prep, my body's responding incredibly well. My psychology towards food is incredibly healthy, and I'm feeling great with the reverse diet thus far. And that is exactly what you want as you come out of a competition prep. That, ladies and gentlemen, concludes week 2. I will see you next week for week 3, where we're going to be doing a deep dive into the DEXA results. So definitely stay tuned for that one. Talk to you next time.